Morning, everybody. Grozz here with Grozz World of Sports Gaming, and I'm here to do a pro wrestling update. Um, Today's video is brought to you by Things Knitted by AJ. It's my wife. It's a coaster. She's learning, and she's doing a great job. Okay, so in case you're unaware, New Japan Pro Wrestling has a wrestling tournament each August called the G1 Climax, Grade 1. It's been going for, oh boy, let's see. Well, since 2012, the winner of the tournament earns the right to challenge for the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship. But it has been going since 1974. I'm copying this with my own flair. Here you have the not enough. Trying to get this off screen there. Up top, you can see my divisions. I have 5 divisions, each with 10 wrestlers from 1986, from 5 different promotions, I guess. And we're doing the 10-team round robin where everybody fights everybody once. They get points. I'll show you the point thing in a second. And I figure I would go with the top 5, and they would do this again, a round robin, and then the winner would just be the winner of what I'm calling the Grozz-1. So first let me give you the point things. For a submission, they get 7 points. For a pinfall, they get 6 points. If they win by countout or DQ, they get 2 points. A draw is 1 point, and then if you lose by DQ, you get negative 2 points. If you get pinned or submitted or whatever, you just get a 0. All right, so I already ran the first round. That's why I'm kind of trying to hide this stuff off to the right. Okay, from the AWA, this is 1986, remember. From the AWA, we have Doug Summers, Kurt Hennig, who would later become Mr. Perfect, Boris Zukov, who would later be a part of a Russian tag team with Nikolai Volkov, Colonel De Beers, who recently died this year. I guess it's not recent. I mean, we're in May, but he died this year, 2025. Larry Zbyszko, the living legend. Scott Hall. This is pre-Razor Ramon. This is 1986 AWA Scott Hall. Nick Bockwinkel, who was like one of the best AWA wrestlers of all time. Buddy Rose. I don't really know much about Buddy Rose. Nord the Barbarian, who I think later becomes like the Berserker. I could be wrong on that. But Nord the Barbarian. And then Stan Hansen. Oh boy. And if you're curious, if you like zoom in on this, you know what I'm going to do actually? Let me just that way you can see these a little better. If you see that, you can see the points from the first round in there too. But I wonder if this will help. Yeah, I guess so. The wrestler that's in bold is my prediction for each promotion. Okay. So that's the AWA. In Jim Crockett Promotions, which is basically like they turn into WCW, I guess, we have Nikita Koloff, the Russian Bear. Magnum TA, who was on his way to being a multi-time world champion when he wrecked his car and could never wrestle again. Arn Anderson, the Enforcer from the Four Horsemen. Tully Blanchard, another member of the Four Horsemen. Ivan Koloff, who is, with his nephew Nikita, are the Russians. Manny Fernandez, the Bull. The Nature Boy, Ric Flair. The American Dream, Dusty Rhodes. Wahoo McDaniel. Oh, yeah. In the AWA, I picked Nick Bockwinkel. That's my prediction. In Jim Crockett Promotions, Wahoo McDaniel, who is my pick. And then Baron Von Raschke, who I think Von Raschke probably could have been in the AWA, but in 1986, he was in Jim Crockett. Okay, then we move to the World Class Championship Wrestling, the WCCW out of Texas. This is like the Von Erichs division. I have Lance Von Erich, who I really never heard of, but he was in the top 10 matches. That's how I picked these. Whoever was in the top 10 matches for that. I mean, I made a few changes, as you'll see. So then we have Steve Simpson, who I've never heard of. Rick Rude. This is just before he became Ravishing Rick Rude in the WWF. Brian Adias. Mark Youngblood. Matt Bourne. Now, people might not know Matt Bourne, but he was actually in one of these G1 Climaxes, and he did pretty well, I think. But then he went to WWF, and he was a bunch of characters, but his most famous was he was the original Doink the Clown. Okay, then we have Buzz Sawyer. That's an inside joke right there. Who the person it's aimed at will understand. Then we have Bruiser Brody, who was in the top 10 for that, or at least in my research. And that's my pick for this division. Chris Adams, who actually was one of the first people to use the super kick, and he was actually married or dating Lady Blossom, who later was I think she was in a relationship with Steve Austin. Then we have Kevin Von Erich, the only Von Erich of the Von Erich boys that is still alive. I don't know about Lance. He's not one of the brothers. There was 5 brothers under Fritz, and Kevin's the only one left. Okay. Then we have the WWF. We have Macho Man Randy Savage, who is my pick for the division. Tito Santana, or Chico, if you prefer. King Kong Bundy. The JYD, Junkyard Dog. Leaping Lanny Poffo, who was actually my pick to finish in 10th place in the WWF. Pedro Morales, who was at this point kind of in the Intercontinental title scene. Cowboy Bob Orton, cast not included. Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. Hercules Hernandez. This is when Hercules was in a program with Hulk Hogan. And Magnificent Morocco, who's battling Pedro Morales for the Intercontinental title. No Hulk Hogan. He's in the game that I'm using, which I will talk about. Hulk Hogan is ridiculously overpowered. And he should be. He should be very hard to beat because in real life he is. But I was like, well, I know he's going to win that division, or that promotion, so let's take him out. See, Ric Flair's in there, but he can be beaten. Okay, and then one of my all-time favorite promotions, and this is not that crazy 90s UWF where the guy disappeared and they found his body or something. This is the UWF that it was originally the Mid-South promotion and became UWF under Bill Watts, and then it eventually got folded into Jim Crockett Promotions, which would then become WCW. So in UWF, I have Terry Taylor, who later people would recognize as the Red Rooster, whatever. Jack Victory, who I think had some brawls in ECW. Jim Duggan, who was one of the early UWF heavyweight champions, and then he would go to WWF as a janitor, holding on to American flag in a 2x4, and he would become the first winner, or the winner of the very first Royal Rumble. Steve Dr. Death Williams. Ted Ted DiBiase. I mean, do I have to tell you who Ted DiBiase? If you're watching this and you're a wrestling fan, do I have to tell you who Ted DiBiase is? One man gang, who actually Jim Duggan eliminated to win that first Royal Rumble. The missing link, don't know much about him. Eddie Gilbert, hot shot. I think he eventually became like the leader of the varsity club, which included Mike Rotundo, Rick Steiner, and maybe even Steve Williams. I can't remember who all was in the varsity club. Chavo Guerrero, this is Chavo Guerrero Sr., not Junior, this is Senior. And then Savannah Jack, who I have no idea who he is. Okay, so that's the... and I picked Ted DiBiase to win the UWF because before he came to WWF, he was one of the best wrestlers in the world. And really, he still was, but, you know, Ted DiBiase winning the WWF World Championship, that doesn't work for me, brother. All right, and so basically I went to this thing and 10-team round robin. I didn't put anybody in because, you know, multiple divisions of 10. But, you know, I just go and then after round 9, it'll be done. Okay, so I played round 1. Let me show you the game that I use for this. I use Tommy Vogel's Wrestling's Finest. So far, it is the easiest, most enjoyable, and most accurate wrestling game I've played. I'm going to try a game coming up soon called Fordyce Wrestling, which is more modern. And I'm not doing it for, like, the men. I'm doing it for the female wrestlers because a lot of them are really good right now. And I would like to, you know, that's who I kind of want to deal with. Okay, so let's get into the results here. I guess we'll just do this and we'll go up one fight at a time. Let me make these bigger so everybody can see what's going on. Nope, that's not what I wanted. I wanted this. Okay, maybe I have to make it a little smaller. Okay, that way you can all see what happened here. All right, maybe just a little bit smaller. Well, let's just do this. Oh, that's not what I wanted to happen. Okay. Should be able to see it all now. There we go. Okay. In our first matchup, we have Tully Blanchard and Wahoo McDaniel. Wahoo wins by DQ in 38 minutes and 34 seconds. And my notes were both men wore crimson masks, which mean they were just bloody messes. And Tully lost his head and used a belt, and the referee was like, okay, I have to disqualify you. Okay, next up we have Tito Santana and Randy Savage. Tito hits a fisherman's suplex at the 22-minute, 4-second mark and gets the pinfall over Randy Savage, which was, in my opinion, an upset. Then we have Ted DiBiase and Eddie Gilbert. And I have it that Rick Steiner interferes in the pinfall. Gilbert was calling for help, and the referee called a DQ for Ted DiBiase at 27 minutes and 21 seconds. Steve Dr. Death Williams and Chavo Guerrero. Chavo tossed Steve over the top rope at the 7:39 mark, and the referee called a DQ because that's what happened back then. Over the top rope was a DQ. Okay, Steve Simpson. I misspelled it, sorry. And Lance Von Erich. Lance Von Erich bumps the ref, and the ref makes it basically about him. And Simpson was actually gushing blood, but somehow the ref was like, "Oh no, I'm calling for the DQ," and Lance Von Erich gets DQ'd. So, okay. Scott Hall and Nick Bockwinkel. Bockwinkel at the 20-minute and 15-second mark hits the most devastating move in all of sports entertainment. I put professional wrestling, but it's sport, but back then it would be in professional wrestling because there was no sports entertainment back then, really. And Bockwinkel gets the pin over Scott Hall in 20 minutes and 15 seconds. Okay, we have Rick Rude and Kevin Von Erich. Rude hits a diving knee drop at 7 minutes and pins Kevin Von Erich, which, I mean, Kevin Von Erich's pretty tough. I guess we'll see. Then we have Pedro Morales and Bob Orton. Orton got busted open. Morales hits the high knee and gets the pin at 7:21. See, I played this beforehand. In future videos for this, I will have a block of 5, and I'll do the video for those 5 fights, and I will actually play them on screen. I played this before I started doing these videos. One Man Gang versus the Missing Link. Well, One Man Gang hits Link with a chair and the bell. Link has a neck injury, which I'm trying to figure out how to play into. Maybe he's hurt and he has to leave, and somebody has to come in and fill in for him. But so Missing Link wins by DQ. Oh, if you have if anybody out there who watches this has advice on how to handle this, like if I should take him out or what, because the game, once you finish the match, the injury doesn't carry over really. If it does, I haven't figured out how. So let me know. Okay, Matt Bourne and Buzz Sawyer. They were tag team partners, I guess. That's what I put here. But they battle to the back, and they get a double count out at only 2 minutes and 56 seconds. Yuck. Okay, Mark Youngblood and Bruiser Brody. Brody hits his jumping knee smash special and gets the pin after 39 minutes and 36 seconds. So Youngblood was very game against a monster. Manny Fernandez and Ric Flair. Flair uses brass knuckles and pulls the trunks in the pinfall. The referee sees none of it, and Flair gets a quick pin in only 2 minutes and 52 seconds. Manny Fernandez needs to be more aware. Magnum TA and Nikita Koloff. They were brawling, and the referee had enough. The TA and Koloff kept punching, and we have a double DQ. Larry Zbyszko and Buddy Rose. Zbyszko wins after only 7 minutes and 4 seconds after a simple body slam, and I put in that Rose may have taken a dive. So let's add in some flavor there. So Zbyszko moves on somehow. Lanny Poffo and Ricky Steamboat have the same result as Magnum TA and Nikita Koloff at 9 minutes and 4 seconds with a double DQ. That's interesting because they were both faces at this time. Lanny Poffo was Leaping Lanny Poffo. He'd come to the ring, and he was a poet, and he would read poetry off of, he had a Frisbee, and he would read a poet that was on the Frisbee, and then he'd throw the Frisbee into the crowd. So if you don't believe me, seriously, go look it up. I'm not lying. King Kong Bundy and Magnificent Morocco. This is insane. Even though Morocco hit a suplex, which is, I mean, think about King Kong Bundy. Morocco was a tough dude and very muscular, but Bundy's like 450 pounds. But, whoops, now I got it all messed up. Sorry about that. But Bundy he hits an elbow and then uses the ropes and pins Morocco after 27 minutes and 21 seconds. JYD and Hercules Hernandez. Hercules goes crazy, throws JYD over the top rope, and the referee calls it. JYD wins a DQ in 7 minutes and 42 seconds. Herc's got to keep his head in the game, or he's not going to go very far. Jim Duggan and Savannah Jack. Jack hits a chair shot. Duggan has a bad gash, and with the blood in his eyes, he shoves the referee on accident, and the referee calls for the DQ at 29 minutes and 15 seconds. Jack Victory and Terry Taylor, they fight to the floor early. Victory does a suplex on the floor. Taylor gets a concussion on the floor, and Victory wins by countout in 2:29. Ivan Koloff and Dusty Rhodes. Rhodes throws Ivan headfirst into the ring post and gets back in the ring and wins a countout victory in 6:51. Doug Summers and Kurt Hennig. Hennig with the inside cradle. The most devastating move in all of professional wrestling. Gets a pinfall at 35 minutes over Doug Summers. Colonel De Beers and Nord the Barbarian. Nord, using the fallaway slam, which would later become famous by Razor Ramon, gets the pin over De Beers at 23 minutes and 54 seconds. Brian Adias and Chris Adams have a wild brawl outside the ring involving many other wrestlers. Adams is a bloody mess, and the referee has no choice but to count both men out. Boris Zukov and Stan Hansen. Zukov wins by a DQ at 21:35 because Stan Hansen ignores the ref and just bludgeons Zukov into oblivion. Boy, that doesn't sound like Stan Hansen at all, does it? Arn Anderson and Baron von Raschke. The referee wasn't paying attention, I guess. Von Raschke kicked Arn in the groin and used the ropes and got the pinfall at 10:06. And that is our first round. I think what I'll do now is I'll go back up here. And let's see. I'm going to predict. I've already predicted my winners, but and I already did this for the WWF. I said Lanny Poffo is probably going to finish in last. I'm going to go with, Chavo Guerrero is going to finish in last for the UWF. In the World Class, the WCCW, I will say, we'll go Steve Simpson. I don't really know them very well. And Jim Crockett Promotions, I don't want to pile on, but I think Manny Fernandez, if he wrestles that stupid, he's going to finish in last. And then for the AWA, I will predict that Stan Hansen's actually going to finish in last because he can't keep his head and he's going to get disqualified a lot. Although it would be neat if Stan Hansen wins AWA and Bruiser Brody wins World Class, because then they'd have to fight each other, and that would be a brawl. Also, the only thing I have for these matches is that there's no time limit. They will fight until there's a winner or a DQ or whatever. So there we go. That's the start of the Grozz-1. Hope you enjoyed it. Let me know what you think if you want to predict who's going to win or whatever. These aren't sorted because then that would mess up this. They have to stay in the same spot. So, but I will say that for AWA, after one round, Kurt Hennig, Larry Zbyszko, Nick Bockwinkel, and Nord the Barbarian have 6 points to lead that promotion. Jim Crockett Promotions, Ric Flair and Baron von Raschke, of all people, are leading that one with 6 points. World Class is Rick Rude and Bruiser Brody with 6 points. WWF, Tito Santana, King Kong Bundy, and Pedro Morales with 6 points. And then in the UWF, it's Insanity. Jack Victory, Steve Williams, Ted DiBiase, Missing Link, and Savannah Jack all have 2 points. And that's just, it's like the Wild West. There have been no submissions yet. So, kind of excited to run through this some more, or to start like going on videos. Let me know what you think. If you want to predict, that'd be great. Later today, I will have a boxing highlight, or not highlight, but a showcase, because in my heavyweight ranking tournament, I have the next fight up is what I consider to be a complete banger, an all-time great versus a current great. So I have to do a video, and they will be fighting. Oh, that's not it. That's not it. At the Joe Louis Arena. That's where they will be fighting. Let me bring this picture up. That's fine. Keep going. I want this picture. There you go. The Joe Louis Arena. So, all right. Watch for that. Let me know what you think about this tournament, the wrestling tournament, and I will talk to you later. I've been Grozz. This is Grozz World of Sports Gaming.